What is up, everyone? Boshi here, back at it in Raid Shadow Legends, and we have a 10-time summon event coming up this weekend, so let's talk about it. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and jump into the champions involved in that 10-time summon, I did want to do a quick reminder for anyone that didn't see my latest short or hasn't seen the news on social media or on Reddit. There is a promo code that is live in game right now, and it is code NINJA. Now if you use this, you'll go ahead and get free auto battles, some energy, and some silver, so I definitely recommend you redeeming this because who doesn't like free stuff? Now, if you don't know what this promo code is promoting, well, Ninja is getting his own in-game character for everyone to earn for free through some type of event. Now, details regarding that event we do not know much about, unfortunately. It is rumored to start tomorrow, but as soon as I get some more info, I'll definitely make a short or something about it so you guys can get that info and know how to earn that free champion. Alright guys, so like every 10-time summon video, I will be going through all the champions involved in that summon event and going through their kits, letting you know what I think about that champion specifically and where they're good at, and at the very end I'll let you guys know if it's worth summoning, or in my opinion if it's worth summoning. But yeah, I'll go ahead and leave content chapters down below in the description if you want to know or jump to a specific champion that you want to hear me talk about, or if you just don't want to hear me talk about every single champion, that's definitely understandable. Alright guys, so let's go through the first champion. So the first one is going to be Giscard the Sigiled, defensive based champion. He was part, I believe, of the Underpriest Brogni fusion, and unfortunately you were not able to get an extra copy of him just because of the way that fusion worked, but a very solid champion. So let's go through his kit. So on the A1 we have Foe Breaker. Attack one enemy has a 50 or 75% chance if you book it of placing a big decrease attack debuff for 1 turn. I do wish this was a 2-turn duration. I do like the fact that decrease attack is on the A1 though. I always like major debuffs being on the A1 just because they seem to be up more frequently. But I do kind of understand why they have it on a 1-turn duration, and it's because of the rest of his kit. So let's go ahead and jump through that, but very solid A1. On the A2 we have Lion's Roar. Attacks all enemies, has a 50 or 75% chance if booked of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn, and then also places a shield buff on this champion equal to 25% of their max HP for 2 turns, and this can drop down to a 3-turn cooldown. So AoE provoke is always a great thing for CC, especially for progression accounts, because it allows you to protect the rest of your team. And the really cool thing about this ability is he almost provides his own protection by giving himself that shield, which is a very awesome addition to this, meaning that you don't have to bring a shield type support champion in order to protect him. Maybe a healer, because healers are always a nice thing to have in groups, but yeah, definitely a great CC type of ability to protect the rest of your team. On the A3 we have Field of Strength. Places a big increased defense buff and a big increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, and you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. So this is really great. Once again, for survivability, he's in that realm, has that provoke ability, has now the increased defense ability, which will allow him to take less damage from the provoked targets, and then the increased attack is for all those DPS that you are protecting. So really cool ability, and the fact that it's on a 3-turn cooldown pretty much means he can keep it up 100%. But yeah, really cool ability. And then on the passive we have Egotist, which is why I was talking about the A1 being 1-turn duration. Egotist will fill this champion's turn meter by 15% whenever they are attacked by an enemy under a provoke debuff or an increased attack buff. So the big thing with this is that I believe this part was nerfed. I'm not exactly sure, but it was nerfed before he went live. But with him being like a provoke champion and him being attacked, he's going to be getting multiple turns a lot quicker because you'll be filling his turn meter with the provoke champion hits. So yeah, putting him in like some type of relentless set could actually make him a provoke beast, just being able to CC waves and stuff like that. But yeah, really cool passive and unique passive in my opinion. So really cool there, and works with his kit so well, hence why he'll be getting like his A1 a lot more often. So you don't really need a longer duration on the drop attack because he'll be applying it so often. And then you have the aura, increase allied defense and faction crypts by 27%. Not the greatest aura. I'm not a big fan of faction crypt auras, unfortunately, but yeah. So overall, an amazing CC/progression type champion in my opinion. just is there to protect the rest of your team while they do their jobs. He's going to be good in any type of progression that you're doing on your account. So that means faction wars, that means dungeons, that could be even Doom Tower waves and stuff like that. He's going to do very well in there, and I think he can just help your account very much if you're in need of that type of thing. Alright, the next one is going to be Helior. So Helior was recently part of a guaranteed champion event for the Sacred Shards, so definitely a harder guaranteed champion to get, but he's really cool, unique champion, so let's go ahead and jump through his kit. So on the A1 we have Sunshine Halberd. Attack one enemy, increase this champion's defense by 5% if this attack is critical and stacks up to 20%, so stacking 4 times. And then we'll also heal this champion by 75% of their defense after attacking if their defense has already been increased by 20%. So pretty much after you stack it up to 20% increased defense, you'll start healing yourself for the amount of, or 75% of the amount of defense you actually have. So very unique ability, very big option for soloing things because he has his own built-in self-heal, so that's really cool. Book value here is pretty bad though because he doesn't provide any type of debuff and it's just damage based. On the A2 we have Solar Blessing. Attack all enemies, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. On a 3-turn cooldown if you book it, the rest of the books are damage. So this is a very big thing, just like Miscreated Monster. Does an AoE attack, provides a shield based on the damage. So he can be a really good ability, or a really good addition, I guess I should say, to areas like Spider or maybe even Ice Golem where you have multiple targets consistently, so you can provide big shields to protect the rest of your people. On the A3 we have Harsh Light. Transfers all debuffs from all allies to a target enemy and then attacks that enemy with the default skill, so his A1, allowing him to either stack his defense quicker or allows him to heal. And then has the convert this champion's resistance into additional accuracy when using this skill on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is where his kit becomes unique because of the fact that this is the only ability that necessarily needs accuracy because the rest of it doesn't provide any type of debuff, but the transfer of the debuffs does require the accuracy. Now the big thing with this though is that you don't need to build accuracy, all you have to do is build resistance, making him even tankier because it converts the resistance into accuracy when using this. And by default he already has 50 resist, so by default 50 accuracy. So this is really cool. You can actually build him very heavy defense. Obviously you want him damage based because you want the shields to be big. And then just resistance, big defense, crit damage possibly. So it's really cool. You can stack his resistance up to like 300, 400, and that just converts to 400 accuracy when he needs it. So really unique and cool thing. And then you have the passive Intercessor. Whenever an ally that has 2 or more debuffs is attacked, this champion will absorb 30% of the damage inflicted on that ally. So it can be really cool in Doom Tower or in PvP where you see drop defense weaken combined all the time. So they're going to have those 2 or more debuffs, so he'll absorb and help, keep that person alive. And then you have the aura, increase ally resist in all battles by 60. So if you put him in the lead slot, he'll actually by default have 110 resist right off the bat, which is really good in my opinion for PvP or just for boss fights in general and stuff like that. And then obviously that will convert into accuracy whenever he needs it. So just a really cool overall champion. Definitely could help you in progression. Like I said, in Spider, Doom Tower, Ice Golem, stuff where there's going to be multiple targets all the time, so that when he does use his A2, the shields are going to be a lot bigger. Alright, the next champion is going to be from the Sacred Order, and it's going to be a Void champion, Godseeker Aniri. So Godseeker Aniri, once again, a newer champion in the game, defensive-based champion. So on the A1 we have Blade of Blessings. Attacks one enemy, heal the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of their max HP. Cannot heal this champion. And then the books are for heal and damage. So not the greatest books in my opinion, but not horrible. That this is a really nice default skill just to consistently heal a low target. Unfortunately she can't heal herself, so if she ever gets low, good luck I guess, more or less, but definitely a cool A1. On the A2, we have Quest for Meaning, attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, then decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn, and increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is a really cool AoE ability, right? And then you get to heal your champions while also reducing duration of any buffs on your opponent team. Could be really good in PvP for people to have like block damage or something like that. Or in general for like the Doom Tower waves or faction wars. And then you can increase all of your buffs, which means like things that are on a two turn duration but on a 3-turn cooldown, you're almost maintaining those buffs 100% of the time because of Godseeker. So really cool ability here. On the A3, we have Rise of Glory, revives a dead ally with 50% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50% and resets the cooldowns on all their skills on a 4-turn cooldown if you book it. This is really cool. I really like this res. It might not be the highest res, like as in healing or turn meter, but the fact that it resets all the cooldowns of their skills is really cool. But yeah, nothing more to say about that. Just a really good res. Great for faction wars, in my opinion. And then you have the passive Guardian Angel. So on the passive effect, we have increased the amount of healing allies received by 10%. So pretty much a passive curing set almost, not as... Okay, I'm not even going to say curing set's a good set, but it's a little bit less of a passive type of heal increase, but yeah. On active effect, if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts that hit and instantly places a revive on death buff on them for 1 turn before the damage is taken. And that active part is going to be on a 4-turn cooldown. So this is really cool, especially for something like PvP where like if you have a single target nuker and you know that they're prone to dying, you can have Godseeker in there that will definitely revive him. So this is a really cool ability. I like the whole preempt that hits and instantly puts the revive on death part. Really cool. Can't really like strip that buff off of them before they die and stuff like that, so can't really prevent this from happening beyond like Lydia or something like that. But overall, an extremely good champion. I think she'll do very well in stuff like Doom Tower, just for providing a constant heal or something like that. Stuff like maybe Nether Spider where poisons are ticking and stuff like that. And then obviously good in Faction Wars as a healer, as a reser to get those 3 stars. And PvP just for her passive to possibly revive a person that's gonna die. So overall, a great champion, and she's void, so she's gonna be good in everything. The next one is gonna be Mordecai. So Mordecai, once again, another new champion that you weren't really able to get an extra copy of through the fusion. Support-based champion. So on the A1, we have attacks one enemy, has a 30 or a 45% chance if you book it of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%, and then has a 60 or a 75% chance instead if the target is under an HP burn debuff. Not the greatest A1, considering the chances is automatically low unless you have an HP burn, but 10% turn meter drop just isn't cutting it anymore, especially with the higher dungeons. Turn meter is almost frowned upon, I guess, more or less, so unfortunately not the greatest A1. On the A2, we have Time's Undoing, has a 75 or a 100% chance if you book it of decreasing the turn meter of all enemies by 15%, and then fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%. So very similar to Diabolus, I believe. Not the greatest thing. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. I do like the fact that it decreases turn meter and increases your guys' turn meter, but unfortunately, it's like 15% just isn't too much. Like, I think they could have gave like a 25% and it would have definitely made it 100 times better. But yeah, not the greatest ability, but not terrible. But this is where he's going to actually shine a lot, and it's Heavenly Flames. So it has a 75 or 100% chance if you book it of placing an HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. On a 4-turn cooldown, if you book it, places a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 3 turns as well. So the big thing with this ability is that it doesn't attack, you're just placing. So this is automatically going to be good for all spiders, right? So you have regular dungeon spider. HP burn is king as of right now because of the buff, well, because of, I guess, the nerf 2-turn meter. But also for Nether Spider, you're not attacking the spiderlings, so they're not counterattacking, you're just placing an HP burn, which is huge for that fight. And same thing for Frost Spider, placing HP burn on the 2 additional spiders to burn him down even quicker. So very, very good in my opinion, just based off of this ability because you're placing and not attacking. But yeah, overall really good there. And then on the aura, we have increased ally accuracy in all battles by 40. So overall as a champion, I'm not the biggest fan of the A1, not a biggest fan of the A2, but his A3 pretty much makes up for it if you are having struggles in any of these spider encounters, right? Dungeon Spider, this is huge. HP burn is a very sought after ability as of right now. Nether Spider, this is the way a lot of people are killing Nether Spider a lot quicker, and same thing with Frost Spider. So he could be actually king in all of your spider fights if you really wanted him to. But yeah, if you aren't in need of a spider specialist, unfortunately not going to be the greatest champion. Alright, and then the last one we're going to talk about in the Sacred Order is going to be Abbess. So Abbess is, I believe, an older champion, attack-based champion. So on the A1 we have Arrow of Rebuke, attacks one enemy, removes a random debuff from this champion and places it on the target. You know, a unique A1, not the greatest, but if you do happen to get like a drop defense or something like that, then you can just remove it and place it on the target. So not necessarily a bad thing, but not anything amazing. On the A2 we have Mass Impalement, attacks all enemies, has a 75 or 100% chance if you book it of placing a big decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. This is always a great thing, AoE drop defense along with an attack, and I believe this is her hard hitting attack, so this is a pretty awesome ability. Yeah. And then on the A3 we have Divine Wrath, attacks all enemies, damage inflicted is proportional to either this champion's attack or the target's defense or attack stat, whichever is highest. So it's not even going to be dependent on her stuff. And then deals an extra 30% crit damage if the target's attack is highest, ignores 30% of the target's defense if the target's defense is highest. So this is another hard hitting ability on a 4-turn cooldown if you book it. So you have 2 AoE abilities and a single target A1. But you're also doing a decreased defense, which allows just for huge damage, I think, based off of her kit. So overall, really, really good damage dealer. And then Aura, increase ally attack and faction crypts by 34%. So I think she's going to do very well if you want a very good AoE damage dealer for multiple waves, like in Doom Tower. Faction crypts, she does amazing, I'd imagine. But yeah, overall, just a very solid damage dealer that provides that decreased defense as well. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and jump into Barbarians. So Barbarians, we're going to look at Armina. So Armina is going to be an attack-based champion, but I see her kit as more of a support type role. Let's go ahead and jump right through it. So on the A1, we have Discipline Staff. Attack one enemy has a 35 or a 45% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. I wish the chances of landing that stun were a lot higher. I just don't think 45% cuts it, in my opinion. I guess you can up it a little bit through masteries, but yeah, not the greatest A1. Could be a decent A1 if the chances were higher. On the A2, we have Trampling Rampage. Attack all enemies, has a 75 or 100% chance if you book it of placing a big decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So AoE drop defense is always a great thing. And then in addition to that, we'll steal 7.5% of the turn meter from targets under a decreased defense. So this is really cool. So she'll have that chance to place the decreased defense, and then if that lands, she'll also steal 7.5% of the turn meter from the targets under that debuff. So really, really cool there. And the fact is that it's stealing, so she's gaining it, which means she's going to take more additional turns. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. So really, really cool ability there. And then on the A3, we have Ear Splitter Bellow. Decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 20%. Has a 75 or 100% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have their turn meter fully depleted on a 3-turn cooldown. So right here, you're stealing 7.5. Right here, you're decreasing by another 20%. So if you combine with like something like Sylar, you can reduce turn meter by a lot and actually end up landing a stun with this ability. So it's a really, really cool thing. Very good for CC if you're in need of that type of thing. And then on the passive, we had Head of Steam, fills his champion's turn meter by 10% each time an enemy receives a stun debuff. So you can run Sylar in a stun set, and combined with her, I could imagine there's going to be a lot of stuns, a lot of turn meter drop, a lot of stealing of turn meter. So yeah. Now for where she's good at, I would definitely recommend using her probably in faction crypts. I haven't really seen her used too much in dungeons or anything like that, but I could imagine she does very well on helping dungeon progression and stuff like that. But yeah, my vote would be faction crypts. Alright, then we're going to look at a legendary named Elder Skarg. Very amazing looking champion. I love the model for this. So attack based champion. On the A1 we have Tide of Steel. Attack one enemy, places a 30% increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns if this attack is critical. He's a damage based champion, so you're going to build him 100% crit. And then places a 30% increased crit rate buff on this champion if this attack is not critical. This should never apply in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. On the A2, we have Hunt the Marked, attack one enemy 3 times, then places an extra hit for each buff or debuff on the target, can place up to 3 extra hits, so a total of 6 hits. Places a HP burn debuff for 2 turns and a True Fear debuff for 1 turn on all enemies. On all enemies if this attack places all 3 extra hits, steals all the buffs from the target after the attack, and the books are just for damage. This is actually a pretty ridiculous ability, just because of the fact that it hits extremely hard. With the new AI changes, I actually saw a video, I think, I can't remember who did it, but he actually does ridiculous damage on Clan Boss. But yeah, this is also used, I think, on some Spider comps where you would actually like land a bunch of debuffs on the Spider and then use Hunt the Marked to land the HP burn on everyone and True Fear on everyone, preventing attacks possibly. So really cool ability. I really like this. And then on the A3 we have Elder's Clarion, places a big increased defense buff on this champion for 3 turns, then places a fear debuff on enemies for 1 turn, places a True Fear debuff for 1 turn on targets under block damage buffs, places a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns on targets under a shield buff. These debuffs cannot be resisted. Also places a provoke debuff on legendary champions for 1 turn. So much going on a 3-turn cooldown. So yeah, he's just providing an increased defense for himself and then providing a bunch of CC type of abilities. So overall, really good solid ability to get through faction crypts, through Doom Tower waves, through even use in PvP. So yeah, just an overall great ability. And then on the passive, which is a very unique passive by the way, Kingslayer receives 15% less damage from legendary champions. So in turn, this is usually, big in PvP because you can see what legendaries you're going against, but with the addition of Doom Tower, you see a lot of legendaries in there, and then also faction crypts. So he's actually going to pretty much take less damage overall when it actually counts. And then inflicts damage equal to this champion's attack when attacked by a legendary champion. The extra hit cannot be critical, so that little bit of extra damage whenever he is attacked, though, from a legendary champion is also a great addition. And then we have the aura, increase ally crit rate in arena battles by 30%. That's a huge ally crit rate aura for arena. So if you want to build more damage based people, and you don't want to get their crit up to 100%, you can put him in lead. Don't really see that happen too often, but I guess it could be a thing. But overall, a great champion for Faction Wars, Doom Tower, PvP, just because of the amount of CC he provides and the amount of damage he puts out. Alright guys, and the last one we're going to look at is Ursuga, one that I actually really want for PvP. She's going to be an HP based champion with a ridiculous shield. Alright guys, so on the A1 we have a Gigantic Cudgel, attacks one enemy, has a 45 or a 60% chance of placing a blocked active skill debuff for 1 turn if booked. So block active skill is always a really nice thing to prevent any major things from happening. Really good for PvP and really good for faction crypts if you are targeting the specific champion. So really like the A1. On the A2 we have Barrel Through, attack all enemies, places a 30% decrease crit damage debuff and a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on attacks on targets whose attack is higher than their defense, and then places a decreased speed debuff and a big decreased defense debuff for targets for 2 turns on targets whose attack is equal to or lower than their defense. So, giving the according debuff to the right champion, but overall a great ability on a 3-turn cooldown. Yeah, I really like this. All about protection, right? Dropping the speed, dropping the crit damage, dropping attack or defense associated with the correct champion. So overall, really good ability there. On the A3, we have Bottoms Up, places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 3 turns, and then places a 25% strengthen buff on this champion for 3 turns, making her not take as much damage from that ally protect. And this is going to be on a 3-turn cooldown, which means this is going to be up 100% of the time unless it's buff stripped or something like that. Really good ability for protection right here. And then we have the passive Golden Guard, decreases the damage of all allies received from critical hits by 30%, and then this champion will receive that damage instead. So she's going to be a huge meat shield pretty much, and with the fact that she's going to lower the crit damage from attack-based champions and then also take 30% of the critical hits, she'll take less damage in general, but overall everyone will take less damage. And then on the that is my phone. On the aura, we have increased ally HP in all battles by 33%, which, because she's going to be a meat shield, you can put her in lead. She's going to have more health to play with. And this is going crazy, so yeah, sorry about that, guys. That is it for all the champions, guys. So overall, do I think it's worth summoning any of these champions? I think there are some good champions. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen of the list. I believe Giscard is going to be good if you have progression needed on your account. Helior is going to be good if you need a damage dealer or a spider type shielder or something like that, and is very unique champion in general, so it could just be nice to have for future. Godseeker Aniri is a very solid champion overall. Mordecai, definitely if you need a spider specialist, but other than that, wouldn't really go for Mordecai. Abbess, very good damage dealer. Armina, faction crypts for the most part. I think she could be unique in certain areas, maybe PvP, but haven't played around with her enough to figure anything out with her. Then you have Elder Skarg, very good overall champion, faction crypts, PvP, Doom Tower waves, possibly clan boss if you set up the AI correctly. So overall great champion there. And then you have Ursuga, which is, I think, a great progression champion for just absorbing damage, but I think shines mainly in PvP. But yeah, if you are in need of any of those specific things, I would definitely go for this. There are some definitely good champions, I must admit, in this, so I might be going for Ursuga. We'll have to see about that, though. Void shards are hard to get by, so... Yep, that is it. Hope you guys liked this video. Let me know what you guys will be doing this weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.